A poll by the Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIA, also known as Chatham House, the British sister organisation to our Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, taken a month before President Donald Trump issued his temporary suspension on refugees, showed widespread and increasing support among Europeans for his actions. Across all 10 of the European countries polled, 55% of those polled agreed that all further immigration from mainly Muslim countries should be stopped, while only 20% disagreed. In no country did those disagreeing exceed 32%. The results were striking and sobering, according to Matthew Goodwin, writing for the RIA. Trump's ban has been interpreted widely as an attempt to curtail the inward migration of Muslims, which Trump and his supporters argue pose a threat to national security. Those supporters include leaders of Europe's populist right-wing parties, including Geert Wilders, Nigel Farage and Matteo Salvini, who have heaped praise on Trump. The results of the poll suggest that public opposition to any further migration from predominantly Muslim states is by no means confined to Trump's electorate in the US but is fairly widespread, across Europe. The news was even worse for those worshipping at the altar of internationalist solutions to the refugee problem. Wrote Goodwin, there was also a widespread perception in many countries that the arrival of refugees would increase the likelihood of terrorism, with a median of 59% across those 10 European countries holding this view. A Reuters, Ipsos poll taken just a week earlier should have given the globalists fair warning. That poll found that half of American adults polled said they either strongly or somewhat agreed with Trump's executive order, with a third of those polled feeling more safe because of the temporary ban, and 38% saying they thought Trump was setting a good example of how best to confront terrorism. The internationalists thought they had fixed things back in September when the United Nations hosted the Summit for Refugees and Migrants, which resulted in the New York Declaration. According to the UN, the refugee issue was an opportunity to push for more globalist intervention, with the aim of bringing countries together behind a more humane and coordinated approach. It was a historic opportunity to come up with a blueprint for a better international response. The summit was a watershed moment to strengthen governance of international migration and a unique opportunity for creating a more responsible, predictable system for responding to large movements of refugees and migrants. The New York Declaration had lofty goals, to be implemented by force. They included supporting those countries rescuing, receiving and hosting large numbers of refugees and migrants. Ending the practice of detaining children for the purposes of determining their migration status. Strongly condemning xenophobia against refugees and migrants and support a global campaign to counter it. Finding new homes for all refugees identified by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees as needing resettlement, and expand the opportunities for refugees to relocate to other countries, and strengthening the global governance of migration by bringing the International Organization for Migration into the UN system. The New York Declaration constituted a minor miracle, claimed the UN High Commissioner, representing a revival of multilateralism as an antidote to isolationism and a truly remarkable achievement in today's complex and retrogressive climate. The polls are showing a much different attitude toward the international planner's proposed mandates. Dr. Jeff Crisp, writing for Chatham House, commented on the unhappy change reflected by the polls. It therefore seems inconceivable that an expansion in global resettlement numbers, a key objective of the New York Declaration, will be attained. In addition, President Trump has already targeted U.S. contributions to the UN for some serious budget cutting. Decried Crisp, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, which currently receives around 40% of its resources from Washington, D.C., is likely to be on the sharp end of this process. In such circumstances it will be extremely difficult to accomplish the objectives, as envisaged by the declaration. The ripple effects of the President's executive order and its complementary support from Europeans who are even closer to the refugee problem and its terrorist implications are already being felt. Trump's order has effectively negated implementation of the New York Agreement and is threatening the very existence of the UN agency seeking to implement it. Not bad for an executive order that hasn't even been fully carried